let's start with the tempo. Let's bump it up to 124. That was 126. One of the things you'll notice about the Tanzbar too, some of the knobs are pretty sensitive, so it's sometimes difficult to dial in exactly what you want, but keep trying, you'll get there. So the important buttons on the Tanzbar 2, manual, trig, record, mute button, sample, instrument select, pattern shift. I'll use these primarily. I mean, there's tons of more buttons on here. Well, accent too. But those 5 buttons generally are the ones that I use quite a bit. So as you'll see, I generally have my hands like this. So to select an instrument, hit the white button, hold it, select your instrument. We're going to choose kick 1. Now this is turned from green to red, so now we know we're ready to add in our steps. Minimal house, 4 on the floor. So while these are flashing, this lets me know that I can change the parameters for this instrument. So we want a deeper kick, obviously. And I'm going to dial back some of the attack. So also, kick 1's pretty unique in that it has quite a few parameters you can adjust compared to kick 2. So we have these 3 on deck. We also have the pitch envelope, the decay of the envelope, as well as noise. I personally find it fairly unusable. Maybe if you wanted to add some ghost notes with some additional textures in there, it might be reasonable. Even at level 1, so I'm holding this down and these are all the levels, so 0 through 16. Even 1 I don't really care for that much. I'm sure there's some use for it out there. Same thing with the transients on the kick 1. You have the option to change those, and as you can hear, 14 is not too bad. 15, weird. So some of these are bizarre. We're going to keep it at the default, which is 8. While these are flashing, again, these are all editable. You can edit all the parameters per step on each instrument, which is awesome. It's fucking awesome. One thing important to note over here is the accent button is sort of the reddish green. That is the most velocity, the most accented, largest, highest volume. So for now, we're going to keep it up there. But we are going to fuck with the pitch decay and pitch to give it a little more oomph. Maybe not that much oomph. Maybe, you know what, while I'm hearing this, let's get rid of that transient. Let's change back. That's noise. Let's, alright, I like that. Nice round sound. Again, going for that minimal house vibe. Sounds good. So, forgot to say, to lock your parameters in, you hit this button, and to select. So if I wanted to re-edit these steps, I'm going to hold down this button. While holding it down, select all the steps you want to edit, let go. These are all flashing, which lets me know that I can edit them again. Alright, locked it in with that. So we are locked in. Actually, I'm going to reselect one because we're going to add little ghost notes in here. So with ghost notes, I don't want them to be as loud as the primary pulse on the quarter. And we're going to change the tuning just to give it a different vibe. Alright, I like that. Again, minimal house, so we need that tick-tock-like effect, the ticking of time that all those minimal house fans love. So moving over to the open hat track, we're just going to add the offbeats. Alright, standard. I'm not sold on that sample, so to change it, while this is flashing, I'm going to hold the sample select button. And you can choose all these that have your samples, so you have 0 through 16, 17 samples to choose from. We're going to go with that scratchy sound. And while these are still flashing, I'm going to change the accent level. Made it too loud. Okay, it's good enough. And obviously as we go through this and experiment, we'll change as needed. While we're at the open hat, let's flip over to the closed hat. And you'll see that this is a shared track, and I know that because there's these green lights on here. So this lets me know that if I program over these with the closed hat, it's going to step on the open hat. So you can do it, but just know that you're going to lose that beat that you had on the open hi-hat track. instrument. So let's add some more alright, so got a little pattern here. Let's change the... And so while these are flashing on the on-deck display, you can hear that I can change the decay because we're going for that minimal groove. Then we're going to lock it in. Alright, so closed, open. You know, let's go back to a close. Let's we're going to change some of the samples. So some of those were on 13. The two that I just selected here that are flashing, we're going to change the sample sound. And I'm going to bump down the hi-hat volume just a little bit. I generally don't use these. I'm more of a mute guy. I'm sure there's plenty of people that use these. I would think, you know, I would prefer MFB reversed it, so where if something's muted, it's unlit, but it's the opposite. So when you mute a track, so let's mute. So we muted the hi-hats, now the hi-hat light comes on. My preference would be to have an option to have it do the inverse of what it does, regardless. Alright, so we got our little track. Let's get some tasty claps in here on the 2, and let's do the 3. Alright. And I'm going to change the sample sound because I wasn't real sold on that one. I like that. So let's lock that in. And let's go back in and add something on the, maybe the E of 1. So we have some variation. I'm going to have to bring up the volume on these. So I have room to go down. So I want some ghost notes in here. So I raised the volume up with these with the accent by selecting, deselecting. Now I'm going to go back and select this one, and we're going to just lower the accent, and we're going to change the sample sound. Alright. And sounds like a John Philip Sousa march, so let's add some shuffle here. So shuffle is supposed to be per instrument. From what I read, I can only get it to work for the whole groove, for the whole pattern across globally. So if you figured out how to get that to work per instrument, let me know in those comments, y'all. Alright, with shuffle, shift, shuffle. We have shuffle. We have 0 shuffle all the way through this. To me, not usable. It's made a whole different thing that I'm not shooting for. 3. There we go. It's got a nice little thing going on there. Let's go back to let's go to the toms next. So with the toms, normally I have these running out the back, individual outs on everything. Right now I've just got a tip ring sleeve cable going to a Y, so tip sleeve for right and left. But normally I've got individual outs, and these toms, actually somebody recommended in the comments somewhere to add some overdrive or saturation, and they sound fucking sick when you do that. Today I'm not going to show that, but if you're experimenting on your own, I do recommend throwing in some saturation or overdrive on the toms and the congas because it sounds fucking awesome. I primarily use these for bass lines, so you can see here it has a real strong fundamental pitch. My one problem with the toms is that they don't have a great tuning range. You know, we have tuning here on deck. As you can see, we have a tune parameter. But the range isn't that great. So let's actually, I got a, whatever the fuck this is, a strobe thing, it's a tuner. So let's hear what the tuning range is. And as you can see, we're not getting any sound because we're still in edit mode on tom 1. So let me lock in this one tom beat. So that's locked in. And we're going to switch over here to green. So now when I hit a button, I should hear a sound. There we go. So let's up the decay so this tuner can pick it up. So decay happens to be up here for this instrument. So we've got G to C. So basically a perfect fourth worth of range. And that really applies to these other instruments too. So you don't have a ton of range. So if you're trying to do something that happens to be outside of the key that those notes would fit in, within that fourth range, you have to get a little creative. Sometimes a little bit of a pitch envelope, which is in data 3 and data 3 parameter. You can get like an extra little bit of a half step for tuning. Otherwise, if you like dissonance, maybe that's your thing. Do your fucking thing, rock on. That may be a possibility, but I would prefer a larger tuning range, but I didn't make it, and you just deal with what you're given. So, let's drop the decay back down. Let's start it back up. Alright, so if we're thinking, I like my grooves to be more linear than stacked on top of each other, even when I play drum set. Thinking of like the funkiest grooves that I personally enjoy, a lot of it is linear. So even though you may have something on every fucking 16th note in a bar, if you make it linear, it doesn't sound too packed. There's still the perception of space, maybe, but it's just doesn't sound as busy when you have a lot of things going on. So anyways, with all that to say is like I'm spreading out my toms across the bar. So we got tom 1 on the E of 1. Let's do a alright. And as you can hear that you change the accent, you also change the attack. Alright, so I'm digging on that. Kick 2. So this is a low subsonic, how low does it go, through the fucking floor kind of kick drum. A lot of my Bluetooth speakers can't even pick it up. It doesn't have a ton of oomph. It does have some parameters, but I'm hearing something. Probably I'm just on V4. So while this is highlighted, let's mess around it. So we have tune, tone, decays on deck, and we have pitch decay, pitch envelope. Let's see what we get. Like that. Alright, so we got our little tom groove. So with the snare, I'm going to start with snare 2. Again, similar to the kick 2, you only have one parameter, the snappy, which is like the snares on deck. You have tuning, tone, snare decay, pitch decay up here. So we're going to use this more as another tom, maybe a melodic source. I'm going to use knob record, and that's going to demonstrate the first bug we're going to run into here. So what you'll notice is in these digital sample voices, I'm going to do some knob recording, and the clap's going to go away. So these are all selected. I'm going to hit knob record, wait for it to turn red, and then fuck with this knob to get some knob recording in here. That's cool. So as you can hear, the clap went away. And as you can see, level 0. All these instruments. So when you're doing this in a live situation, I make it so that if I'm doing live knob recording, if I'm doing a mixture of pre-programmed stuff and on-the-fly shit, that I know to do that during a breakdown where I'm not going to want to backbeat, clap, or any of these other instruments to go on, just because you have to go back in here and turn these all up. So MFB, if you are listening, even if it is 2 years from now, if you could fix that fucking bug, maybe it's unique to me. I don't know. You guys let me know. You have that same problem with your unit? Let me know in the comments, because it's really annoying. But let's take that clap out, So let's hear that snare we just programmed in. So you can hear the knob recording. It's got a nice little groove. Like that. Let's bring that bass line back in. Alright, so let's move on to the sample voices. So these all function similar. Moving on to voice 1. So these are special. You know, these are all samples from here on out. These are special because on deck we've got controls for tuning, cutoff, decay, as well as resonance, hold, which I don't know why that's different than decay. If you happen to know, you're some sort of drum machine scientist, let me know in those comments because I don't fucking know. Regardless, you can still sort of change it. You also have option between low pass and band pass filters and a bit crush. So let's, we've selected voice 1. We're ready for some steps on here, and let's program some in. Alright, so we got like a dubby, we'll call that a dubby techno chord. Let's bring up the volume with the accent. Alright, I'm digging on that. So let's add a few more other samples in here, different sounds. I'm gonna get rid of this because this is cutting off. On the E1 I've got that dub chord, but this sample here is cutting that off. So let's isolate that so we can hear really what's going on. And here we go. Yeah, that's grooving. Y'all like that? I don't know. I think it's cool. If you think it sucks, let me know in the comments, and I'll fucking argue with you. Alright, so if this was going on for a while, it'd get a little stale with that sound. So to spice up voice 1, what we're going to do is just throw an LFO on here. We're on voice 1. Voice 1, we're going to hit the LFO. You'll see it brings up a different set of parameters here, and the LFO button's lit up. Number of bars, the amount of the LFO, we have the waveform, several waveforms to choose from. Use your ears, do what you like. I don't want to fuck with the tuning, so we're going to change it to the filter cutoff. Alright, important part, make sure you add your LFO step. I'm liking that. So if I was doing this live, this is all stuff you can do live to spice it up. And my hand would probably primarily be floating on this cutoff button just to give it some vibe. It doesn't get stale. Sounds a little crunchy, a little distorted. I don't know if that's my sample or maybe I did throw a limiter on here, so it could be that. But as you can see, it just gives it some vibe, some space. Well, not space, but you know, some subtle changes. So voice 2, let's I'll show you last steps. So let's do Alright, so let's so we've got 1E and 2E on here. So let's change the last steps. Shift, last step. This you can do per instrument, which is nice. Alright, and as you hear now, we just have a straight string of 16th notes. So why didn't I just do this? Well, because then we're going to make a cool overlapping sound. So I've locked in the last step to this. We're going to go back into the track and select some steps. And we're going to play around until we get something like we like. Maybe do a bandpass. Let's hear it with everything else. See, and if you had the individual outs, I would probably also have a delay unit, maybe reverb. Throw these sample voices in here. You can have that going on too. Do some cool shit with that. I'm not really sold on that groove here, so we're going to just select them all. Alright, let's do some knob recording here, and you're going to notice the tracks fall out over here. Here's where you get in that techno territory with some of that overlapping techno groove. But let's bring this back in. Got some going on there. So again, half the fun is just playing around, see what you come up with. So let's move over to the rim shot. Same sort of idea. Let's do last step. Don't like that sample, way too loud. Another feature, screen turned off. Boom, back on. That rim sounds really busy. There we go. Groovin'. All right, man. So lastly, maybe before this gets way too long, all right, 24 minutes in. Okay. Let's do the synth. So a lot of people have problems with it. Select the synth like any other instrument. Problem is you can't go back and edit notes, so you're pretty much locked in. So as an example, we're just gonna, this is your rest button. So if you want to program a rest, hit this one. You've got 2 octaves to play with, so C through C. So we're just gonna do all C's on the E, ands, and uhs of the beat. And let's just mute some stuff so we can hear what it sounds like. Alright, so I can't go back in and edit these notes. If I do, say if I wanted to program something else in there, it gets rid of it. So let's put a... What you can do though, with the synth is edit your parameters, not notes, but you can edit parameters. So let's pick some of these at random, and we're going to change some of these. So you've got also attack hidden over here. Octave. So tune and octave, I don't think you can edit in per step, but the waveform, the 4 on deck, and attack you can edit per step. So, you know, you bump this up to 160, 170, and all of a sudden you have trance, but regardless, let's bring some of the other shit back in here. So if you wanted to take this, I like what I got here, but I want to mess around with it some more. So you can copy. So shift, and there's a copy button here. So select bar to copy. We want to copy A. We want to paste it. Shift and paste. Paste it to B. So let's move over to B. And let's go back into the synth line. So if you're doing this live, you know, you can dick around with this as much as you want. So if you wanted both bars to play without you having to push these buttons, you press and hold, and then the order of the buttons that you want. So a little bit of a pain, sometimes two-handed. So if you want to play all 4 bars, you know, A, B, C, D, press it once. But you'll see the order of the bars by the flashing lights. So red is the first bar. The additional bars would be green. With the synth, let's go back in the synth. Let's get rid of that. So to do ties would be shift and this first button here. So if you do hit without shift, it's rest. With a shift, it's a tie. So now here we have a tie. If you want to glide into the next note, hit glide, hit the note you want to slide into. And then you're going to need a rest after it to give it some time to glide. Alright, so now we got like a nasty little acid line here. I want to close down the filter so I have room to go. Bring down the bottom a little bit. So anyways, nice little groove going there. These, you know, all these digital things, with the exception of the voice 1, 2, and 3, function the same. So you have on deck, you'll have a tune, level, and a hold. You'll have decays that you can adjust here. Cool thing is you can adjust samples per step, which is cool. So with the crash one, actually let's go to the ride. So on the ride one, we've got this offbeat going on. So if we wanted to add other things in here, add your additional steps, they're flashing. So I like that sound, it's way too long, so we're gonna decays on deck. Let's Let's give the ride some life because it's sounding a little stale. So let's LFO the ride. So I believe the only destination we can really use is tune on here because there's no cutoff for this section. So I don't know why they give me an option for. Actually, they don't give me an option for cutoff. I think it just defaulted from the previous LFO. Let's just do some for the fuck of it. Let's do some knob recording. See, if I had more time to show you guys, I would tune this up so it's all in pitch. Or a little something funky going on. But you know, we've messed around with bar 1. Let's go over bar 2. Better planning, better timing. You could have awesome transitions. You can do this stuff live with lots of practice. In closing, I love this instrument. It's great for playing live. Let me know what you guys think. If there's anything else you want to see, you know, this is a half hour, a lot of rambling. But if you have questions, comments, you want to argue with me about whether this is cool or not, you know, hit me up in those comments section. Till next time.